You are now live on air.
Hello, folks. You are listening to Beyond Sight and Sound. We are live once again. My guest tonight, good guest. He moved into the New Hampshire area. I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of around 10 years ago. He always loved to hike and walk. Let's face it, there's a lot of woods in New Hampshire. When he got out, he was just amazed at the number of dirt roads, rock walls, cellar holes, stuff like that there were. And, along his adventures, a friend mentions that these are like American ruins, and that kind of sparked the idea to get into metal detecting, and he got a metal detector, headed straight to his local historical society with probably like 2 million questions, and I'm sure talked their ear off. But now he's very, very avid into the hobby. Great guy to talk to. Very super active member of his local historical society. He's with us tonight, and he'll be able to tell us all that himself. Our guest tonight is none other than Digger Charlie out of New Hampshire. How's it going, Charlie?
Good evening or good morning, wherever you may be.
All right. Well,
I'm good, Josh. How you doing?
That's a very nice way to greet all the listeners, because we never know where they're at until they mention it, and there's always archives. Who knows where they'll tune in from. That's a great thing about this, though. You just never know. It's kind of like with the hobby. You just never know what you're going to find next.
Right on.
So, why don't you go ahead and give the listeners a rundown, maybe, of how you got involved with this. What was it that kind of made that spark for you that you thought, hey, I think I'd like to try metal detecting? I mean, is this something where you may have thought about it previously and mauled it around, or just all of a sudden one day it's like, yeah, I want to try this?
Well, I'll try to give it to you in the condensed version, just in case anybody else has heard it, but without leaving anything out. Actually, it's 10 years ago this very day that I ended up here in New Hampshire. And,
oh, wow.
I came from over the border in Massachusetts, which it's like a whole different planet these days. A lot of great people, but just congested where I came from. And you move up here into the woods, and you can go down the road. Nothing's gated. You can see a fire road and walk down it, and you get out into the woods, and you just start finding stuff that has not been touched since its abandonment, which could be obviously anywhere from 100 years plus.
Yeah, I'm thinking, probably anywhere from as early as maybe the 1700s or something on up to maybe the mid-1800s?
Yeah, 1750 is when people started settling here. 1750, and a lot of people cleared out of New England during the Civil War and the mid-1800s, whether it was because of the Civil War, so many people got killed off, husbands and whatnot, and the railroad was making its way. So a lot of people
the movement west.
Out of here, stopped farming rocks and stones because the granite is unbelievable, and they headed out Midwest. So there is a ton of stuff right here in my own town that was abandoned in the 1860s. So that's a pretty good window for something to be sitting around.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you are in an area that is steeped in history.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm only line of sight, I think we're, 55 miles from Boston.
Oh,
so,
wow.
I mean, line of sight, it's not far. I mean, back in those days, it was probably a 3-day trip, but...
Right.
New England's a small place, and yeah, obviously all the colonial history and revolutionary history ties in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you had moved into New Hampshire then, and you're out traveling around these woods, but you still hadn't thought about metal detecting at that point?
No, I just started researching the area. I've always been into like urban exploration, and you're always doing surface finds and picking away at the ground, and we'd look for glass. And to be honest, and I know this probably will piss off some people, but whenever I thought of metal detecting growing up, and it's just the ignorance of being young, all I ever thought of was just people out collecting spare change. I never even thought of it with old stuff, relics, just anything beyond spare change. But, when you're a kid, what do you know? You think you know everything.
Right.
Well, it didn't happen until a few years back where, we had pretty much run through a lot of the spots around here doing surface finds and whatnot, and we came across a couple guys in their 20s in a cellar hole. And I wish I could remember who they were now, because they don't realize what they had
Right,
found.
the impact that they had, basically.
Right. So these kids are in the cellar hole, and we're just like, have you seen any glass or anything kicking around? And they're like, no, but we got this coin. And I clearly remember, it was a nice Indian head. And we just looked at each other, myself, my friend John, and we're like, oh, bastards. And literally, we went out and we just spent a lot of money, and it hasn't stopped since then, because I couldn't believe how much stuff was in the ground.
Right. And I recall on the inside detecting, I guess maybe it was that day that you had run across them, they found that coin, that you had went home and mentioned to your wife you thought she wanted a metal detector, and apparently she already had one in the car?
Yeah, it was like 3 days before my birthday, and talk about an intuitive purchase and gift. Yeah, that was crazy, and it was just like, she's good like that.
Well, that's cool. And then there within, a matter of days, weeks, you had already found yourself upgrading?
Oh, that Monday, the following day, I went and bought a Mind Lab pointer, and within 5 days, John had got a Garrett what did he get? An Ace 350. 2 days later, I went and got one. So within a week, we had upgraded. And then 10 days after that, we went out and bought AT Pros. It was just a very smooth and natural transition.
So within a matter of 2 weeks, you had already started in on your third machine.
Oh yeah, we don't mess around with anything we do.
Apparently.
Yeah, no, if we're going to do something, we're going to do it right. Those machines are working brilliantly for us right now. I'm not anywhere near ready for another upgrade, because you got to spend a long time with the machine to get used to what it's telling you. Don't fix what's broken. It's working. I'm good. I don't need an upgrade anytime soon.
Well, and from what I've seen from some of your videos, it's working quite well for you.
Thanks.
You seem to have made some nice finds. And that's another thing, I guess, maybe for the listeners we should explain. If they've had the opportunity to see some of your videos, which I know I posted the link for your YouTube channel in the promo, so for those that have seen the promo, if you didn't take a minute to go and check out a video or two, shame on you. But maybe we should explain to them that when this all happened, when you ran across these two gentlemen in the cellar hole and they showed you the coin, you decided you wanted a metal detector, that really wasn't all that long ago.
No, I'm in my third season at the moment.
Okay.
So third season with actually using equipment to dig. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, prior to this, I imagine you'd just been going around seeing what you could spot laying on the ground or something. Hadn't really given thought that there was that much stuff out of sight, just below the surface.
Yeah. I mean, either that or we'd go in and absolutely nuke a site where, people say they leave it better than it was looking. We leave it not looking like anything it looked like when we walked in there. Digging for bottles and whatnot, but you start to realize there's a lot more. We're finding silver spoons, buttons. You just could not believe how much stuff was in the ground,
Right. So it sounds like basically you were going around and you seen these cellar holes, you knew of the existence of them, and maybe you were primarily looking for like the dump sites of the homes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even. It's remarkable how much your perspective changes, as you go through life and you learn.
Right.
I was looking for the concentration of people's junk, stuff around where the house was, where their barn may have been, an outbuilding, never even contemplating or thinking of stuff they lost.
Right.
And now that's the majority of what I do is I'm looking for that long shot find for something that somebody lost 200 plus years ago.
Exactly.
And I think that is a big part of the addiction.
Yes, it is. I will completely agree with that. We've got a caller already, Charlie. Go ahead, caller. Who do we have? You're on Beyond Sight and Sound with myself and Digger Charlie.
Yes, I'm Robert Smith, and I wanted to say hi to Charlie.
Well, hello, Robert. How's it going?
I'm glad. Great. I'm glad you're digging all the artifacts. They all need to be taken out of the ground sooner or later.
That's right. It's a crime to leave them in there and let them rot.
Exactly.
It definitely is. We've got to try to get to them because really, in the long run of things, yes, some people are concerned with the value of the artifact as far as the monetary sense, but for many of us who have a passion in the hobby, it's more of the historical significance and the value of it in that aspect, and to just leave it rot away in the ground is an absolute travesty.
It really is.
Right. And I had actually, I don't know if you'd want to call it a hate comment, but some guy basically online, compared us to common thieves because we're stealth diggers, when he'd never even asked me about what it meant. And the reality of the matter is, it's more of a crime to leave this stuff in the ground and let it rot, and almost anybody that you hand something to and show it to them will agree. And 99.9% of my stuff is going to end up in my town museum. So,
Right.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
So kind of like you had mentioned in your video, you really are on a mission from God, so to speak.
Right.
Well, Charlie, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Okay. What about the mayor or your senator or any government agencies in your state? Do they frown on metal detecting where you're at? Because I know you got a lot of old artifacts over there. I mean, like Oregon, we have one town you can't metal detect because they closed it down because of a metal detecting club damaged the property. But is there any problems of because I blame the government also because they're the ones are keeping the stuff in the ground.
Right. And that's an excellent question. And New Hampshire, being the live free or die state, has some interesting angles on that. Obviously, if it's been deemed a historical site by the state, you don't want to go near that. Obviously, you'll get jail time and leave it alone. But in New Hampshire, it's absolutely completely legal to dig in dirt roads up to 12 inches.
Oh, nice.
So that leaves a whole lot of dirt to be turned over, and we completely use that to our advantage.
And I imagine a whole lot of tough digging, too.
Right. My town actually doesn't have any, historical type of, what do you call it, laws to protect things, which is kind of odd.
Oh. Right.
But I'm fortunate enough that I have a lot of support from my local historical society to give me a way in to get a lot of these artifacts, which is great because it's building up some clout for me where if I go to somebody's house and say, listen, everything I dig is going to end up in the museum for everybody to see, and they're going to say, absolutely, do it. I can't wait to see what you can find.
Right.
All right.
But other than that, no, we don't have too much for anybody giving us a hard time about where to dig and where not to dig, public-wise.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. Well, we certainly appreciate your call there, Robert.
Okay, thank you.
You have a great night.
Take care, Robert.
So, and I guess I should explain too, or actually give you an opportunity to explain that sometime during the show. You operate the Stealth Diggers Facebook group.
Yep.
And the YouTube channel, Stealth Diggers. And people can read a lot of different ways into a name like that. And like you said, this particular gentleman didn't give you the chance to explain. Maybe you'd like to explain the name.
Right. Well, the whole thing with being a stealth digger, it's not like Mission Impossible where, you're going to hit a piece of property and get as much out of it as you can, legally. It's just a matter of, we don't dig in the public eye. I'm always in the woods, with the exception of a few permissions lately that have been on still occupied property. We try to go in to a place, not be in the public eye where it's kind of one of those things. As soon as people start seeing what you're doing,
then they start asking questions.
Right, and sometimes you're just better off not opening up that can of worms because the paranoid and the ignorant will call the cops or, stir the soup, so to speak.
Absolutely. So I had an incident like that a few weeks ago myself.
Right, so if I have permission to be on a big chunk of land, which out here could be 200 acres, and have 3 cellar holes on it, we don't park in obvious spots. We get into the woods, we do our thing, we dig it, and we leave it like we were never there. I mean, the old days of nuking a place to dig out a dump is kind of gone, and we just stay under the radar.
Right. So it's not stealth diggers in the sense as you guys are out there trying to nighthawk or something. It's in the sense of out of sight, out of mind, leave it like we were never there to begin with and do it the right way.
Yeah, I would just rather, that's just me, I'd rather people not know my business. And it's also, I don't report where I'm digging, where it came from, because that also draws attention, and before you know it, I'm going to have other people invading my town because they see all these relics coming out of it, and, that could spoil it for the spots that we have permission to be on to get these relics, for the historical value. So we just try to keep to ourselves in that sense. We make the videos, and, it's all about the finds. You don't have to say, oh, I'm in this town and I'm at this location.
Exactly.
That's really interesting to the guy who lives down the street.
Right. I agree completely. In, like with my videos too, I don't normally mention locations or anything like that because you gotta stop and think, like you said, it's about the finds. And all that aside, you still have to respect the property owner if it was someone who was nice enough to give you permission. You don't want people coming up bothering them trying to hunt or whatever.
Right.
Or if it's a public land, you don't necessarily want the wrong person getting in there and tearing it all up just because they saw one of your videos and you mentioned you were there and they're going, oh, hey, well, I want some of that.
Right, and it's different if I have guests come up to dig.
Oh, yeah, that's a completely different story. I mean, they're in there with you.
Right, same thing. If I go with somebody else to one of their spots, it's like, I play by their rules because they were the ones that got the location, so.
Right. And usually, for those of us that are in a hobby like that, we have no problem taking someone else along with us as long as it's somebody, that we're comfortable with or we trust that, we can walk one direction, they can walk one direction, and we're not wondering, gee, I wonder what they're doing with their plugs or something like that.
Right.
Because that's, like I've said many times before, it's the work that people don't see that keeps us coming back. If your plugs are put back properly, everything still looks nice or even better than before. People don't know you were there, and they say, oh, yeah, this guy said he hunted here. He did a really nice job. I'd let him back any time.
Right, and, that's another thing. I've kind of explained this to people. It's like, even though we're in the woods, I still suggest filling your holes and covering it up. This way, if anybody walks by, they can't look in and say, you've been digging the crap out of this place.
Right.
You can walk out of there and it just looks like you were hiking. So.
Yeah. And it's much the same, some people say, oh, well, why do we have to fill it in? We're in a field or something like that. But, whether it's a field, whether it's woods, whether it's a beach, a yard, water hunting, it doesn't take that long. Just fill it back in. And even if it is in a place like, say, a construction site, they're going to run a bobcat over it or something.
Well,
it doesn't take that long to fill in the hole, and it keeps you in the habit.
I don't want to roll my ankle in it next time I'm walking out there either.
Exactly. That's also a good point, too. Especially in the woods like that, you may be quite a ways from your vehicle or something, and if you wind up injuring yourself, you could have some problems.
Right. If one of the guys digs up to their, they've got their armpit in the ground trying to find something, and they leave it open. It's like a manhole,
Right.
Hello.
We've got a caller, Charlie. Go ahead, caller. Who do you have here?
Hey, this is Justin Levitt. I live up here in Vermont.
Oh, okay. How's it going tonight?
Good. How you doing, sir?
All right. Did you have a question for Charlie?
Well, yeah, I guess so. We were talking, I guess I heard you guys talking about, what was it, like historic, people having a problem with digging and stuff like that. Is Charlie there?
Yeah.
Can he hear me or no?
Yes, he should be able to hear you, I believe so. You can hear the caller, right, Charlie?
Hello, Josh. I'm looking for that crazy Phil Digger Charlie. That's me.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Who do I have the honor of speaking to?
This is Justin, man.
Oh, hey, Justin. Glad you got through, man.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, actually, I was sharing a story with him not too long ago about a guy that came up on me when I was digging up here in Vermont on a public site. And he didn't razz me too much or anything, but he wasn't too happy with me being there. And I wasn't really sure how to react. So I guess my question for Charlie would be, what do you do in that situation?
Right. And
Good
you know
question.
What? Justin had permission to be at this location. He talked to the right people, but because he was in the public eye, he had a busybody coming up and drilling him with questions.
Right.
And Justin and I, we chat on Facebook, and I know he's a good guy. And he gave it to me in verbatim. He was very polite with the guy.
Okay, that's a great way to start.
But the guy, and his last question was like, do you know anything about the history? And Justin was like, well, I really didn't have a chance to research it yet. And the guy said, well, then you shouldn't be here. And Justin, a nice guy, just said, okay, sir, packed up his stuff and went.
Right.
And I don't know, that wouldn't have tasted well in my mouth, and I'm sure I wouldn't have been happy about it, but Justin probably can contain himself better than me. But that's that whole point of staying in the shadows. If you don't interact with anybody, it's never going to be an issue, But I would go back there, Justin, and you have names to drop, right? So if this guy comes out again, you can say,
oh, absolutely,
talk to so-and-so and so-and-so if you're not happy with me being here. Or just hit the guy like a human being and ask him, why do you think I should not be here?
Well, absolutely, and I know we were discussing this last week, and you brought up a really great point that I didn't even think about, because it seemed to me that he very well, I'm pretty sure he owned the property across the street, and because he was an older gentleman, and he kind of shuffled over. I could see his feet coming across the road underneath the hedges, and when he got to me, he made it very clear that he was unhappy with me there, but he wasn't really rude, but he wasn't very nice either, and I think your comment, Charlie, was that maybe he used to own that property, or his family did, and he was just protecting his own history, and I never thought of it that way.
Right.
That is a good point. It's possible.
Rumor has it that his grandfather buried his coffee cans out in the field there, with the family savings.
I already found that.
You know what? I bet you're the type of guy that if you found something like that, you wouldn't just put it in your bag and run away with it.
Well, no. I mean, it depends. If it's like a bag full of silver and I've got no way to figure out who it belongs to, then I guess there's not much else I can do. But I mean, if I do have an idea that it belongs to that man or somebody within the family, or I will definitely figure out the history of the object that I find, because I'm more interested in the historic value than I am the nominal value anyway.
Right.
Right. It's a good way to look at it. And really, when you are approached by these busybodies, because sometimes it does take us into the public eye, that's the best way. You know, don't automatically cop an attitude with them. Try to stay polite and, you know, politely stand your ground, much like Charlie said. If you've talked to the right people and you've got names to drop or even have it in writing or a number that they can call and confirm with them, you know, you're completely in the right.
Right, and Justin did the right thing and was super polite. I mean, if anybody gives you attitude, I mean, there's one question that comes down in the conversation that just basically puts an end to their argument. Do you own the place? And when they say no, then just tell them to have a nice day, because it's between me and the owner.
And the property owner.
What did I tell you, Justin? MYOFB?
Yes, sir.
Mind your own funny business, basically.
Yeah, and then I was like, what does that mean? And then it clicked.
And it's like, suddenly the light comes on.
Oh,
yep.
Man.
Well, and it was funny, too, because going back on what Charlie was saying earlier about being stealth this is the first time I've ever had an issue with anyone ever on any of these places that I've been going, and they're all public.
Right.
And, of course, that day, I had forgotten my headphones. And anyone who's got an AT Pro knows that they're not, like, really loud, but they have some higher tones that carry pretty well. Like, I mean, I had a turkey, you know, basically attack me one day in the woods because it was loud enough for the turkey to think that I was messing around, you know what I mean? So it is pretty loud. So when you're not using the headphones kind of thing, people...
Yes, that does tend to draw attention to yourself.
Exactly.
That's
all right,
a nice thing with these pinpointers now.
I just wanted to say hi to Charlie there.
Great to hear from you, Jeff.
Well, we certainly appreciate the call, and we appreciate you listening in.
All right, and one more quick question, Charlie, if you're still there.
Go for it.
What's your holy grail? What are you looking for?
My holy grail? Oh, man. I don't have one. I really don't.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat.
I'm like I said, I'm digging for artifacts from certain pieces of property that hold historical value in our town. So even if it's a common flat button that I know comes from the 1820s and can put it to a family name, that's worth any, you know, Spanish real or whatever.
That's great. Yeah, for me, I guess it would be a Vermont copper, just because I'm from Vermont, but other than that, I'm with you.
Yeah, that would be nice, huh?
All right, well, God bless you guys. Take care.
You too.
You too. Thanks for the call. Well, that was certainly interesting, and you do have to, I mean, like for me, it never seems to fail. It's like clockwork. Usually once a year or so, I wind up having a little bit of interaction with local law enforcement because some busybody seen me, thought I shouldn't be there or something like that. But usually everything, they're very cool about it. They'll come out and ask some questions. You tell them what you're doing, drop some names, and they normally leave you go right on your way.
Right, and it discourages me in general how much ignorance and paranoia there is out there for so many activities. You know, it's like people drive down the street, they see you doing something that they don't know what it is, and they freak out, you know?
Right.
Because you're out there with a device and a shovel, they think you're planting, you know, IEDs or something.
Exactly. That's a very good point. We've got another caller. Who do we have?
You have Brandon Stewart, Swansea Searcher from Swansea, New Hampshire.
Well, Swansea Searcher, nice to see you've finally decided to drop us a line. I see the name in the chat quite often, because I don't watch the chat while I'm on the show, but I do go through and check the comments the day after.
I enjoy you guys' show. It's great. I'd like to listen to you guys, and I've actually enjoyed watching Charlie's videos, and I know he's been out with a friend of mine, too, also, Keebler, as he calls him.
Ah, Mr. Keebler.
Mr. Keebler, Mr. Henry.
Yeah. Well, do you have a question for Charlie?
I do. I have a question for Charlie. I actually, I know he says he doesn't show the places that they've been detecting, but of course I'm from this area, so I know where they're detecting by the backgrounds that they show. I also have permissions in the same area. I was just curious, are they getting more and more of them by word of mouth from the people that they're detecting their yards for doing such a good job not wrecking the ground? Is it spreading so they get more and more of them?
That's a good question. That is definitely a good question. I know, like a lot of times in my particular situation, people are seeing my videos and they're seeing, the still photographs from when I've been out hunting and stuff like that, and they're actually approaching me saying, hey, why don't you come and check out my property? I don't know if you'll find anything, but you're more than welcome to look. So a lot of times I don't even have to go looking for permission. It's coming to me.
That's
Charlie?
what I get a lot from my customer base at my work is I talk about metal detecting to them, or I'll say, hey, I've been in your town and blah, blah, blah. And they'll say, well, my house is, from the late 1800s years ago. My house was built in 1980, but you're welcome to come look. And that's what I was curious is if they're getting word of mouth to say, hey, my neighbor said it's okay, or, you go to one place, you find maybe a couple of good finds, and then they get pushed down the line, word of mouth can be great, or it can tell you.
And that is a good point there, Swansea. Charlie, are you noticing that, where some of these places that you're in there, you've got permission, you're getting, like referral sites, so to speak, because of word of mouth from the people that you've been on their properties?
Not so much that way, but through word of mouth with my neighbors. I have some good neighbors that know what I do, and they find it interesting, and sometimes they'll go with me. They talk to other people that they know, say, listen, Charlie's looking for stuff for the museum. He's not keeping any of it for himself. Oddly enough, it's more of my neighbors who are opening up doors for me than me myself. Yeah,
see, and that's kind of like it is with me. I mean, friends, family, people that see the videos or whatever, they're just contacting me and saying, hey, maybe you'd like to hunt my yard.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I'm really surprised people, I guess I'm only a second year in myself anyway, but, I pulled a real out of somebody's yard, and the next thing I know, the person 2 houses down talked to their neighbor and said, well, it's okay why don't you come and try my yard too? You never know what's out there. I bet there's nothing there but a couple of old keys or something, but, you're welcome to come try.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to look. Right.
Congrats on the Rio. I still have yet to have found one.
Yeah.
It was a lucky find. It rang as a penny, and I pretty much wasn't going to dig it, but it was just luck. Pure luck for a new guy,
And then very glad that you did, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I mean, that's kind of where I started with just normal schools and fields that farmers are plowing, saying, hey, do you mind if I do this while you're plowing before you plant? But after that, I started getting the courage to ask about house permissions, and as soon as I did, I just had really good luck with somebody saying, oh, well, you found this in my yard. Do you mind if this guy comes by? And they take down my phone number, and the next thing I know, I got people calling me saying, you can look here if you want, just don't do it when my lawn's pristine,
Right.
Let me ask you, do any of these people ever want you to give them what you found?
I've only had one who said that if you find a gold coin, I want half the value.
Oh, that's completely fair.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, if I find a gold coin, I'll probably give you the full value because I'd just be psyched to find it. But the reality of that is very slim.
Yeah, I tell anybody if I'm going to dig their property or their house, they can keep anything they want, but, if we come across a hoard of something, like, you're going to hook a brother up, right? So...
I agree 100%, Charlie, and that's kind of how I look at it. I'll show them everything I find. If you want, you can take the pick of everything I find out of your yard. You can have it.
Right.
I have no problem with that. I'd rather see the history behind it than worry about the monetary value.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the way it is. That's what it's about, bringing the past to the present.
Keebler asked me the other day if I want to get out with you and him one of these times, and, as soon as he messages me back telling me that's the case, because he only lives about 10 minutes from me, so...
Oh, cool. So, yeah. So you can get in touch through Keebler, right?
I will. I talk to Henry all the time.
Oh, excellent. Cool.
All
Well, it was
right.
great talking to you guys. Great radio show. I'm glad they had you guys as a guest because you're a fanatic in this area from the sounds of it.
Well, we're certainly glad to have him on, and we appreciate you listening in there, Swansea.
All right, I appreciate it, guys. Have a good night.
We'll see ya.
Good to talk to you.
All right. Well, it sounds like you're getting quite a few friends from the area calling, in a sense.
Yeah, I like that.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back.
Are you a metal detecting enthusiast looking for a new machine? Maybe you're just getting started in the hobby and you're not sure what machine to get. Get down to earth and into the dirt. Contact Mike, the Buckeye Hunter of MT Detector Sales. Mike is an authorized multi-line dealer of MineLab, Garrett, Technetics, and Tesoro. Don't deal with someone who may not even hunt. Mike sells what works and uses the brands he sells, specializing in such models as the MineLab E-Track, CTX 3030, Garrett AT Pro, and Tesoro Outlaw. Get down to earth and into the dirt with MT Detector Sales. MTDetectorsales.com.
All right. I was going to ask you, too, once you decided that metal detecting might be the way for you to go, did it happen to, say, open up a whole other area for you as far as the way you looked at sites? I mean, did you look at them from a different point of view after that, or do you find yourself doing that now?
Well, I kind of came into it backwards where I had spent so much time on the sites before detecting, where I would go out and I would find the barn footprint, find the privy hole, the well. I think now it's just a matter of accumulating information where I'm starting to see, in metal detecting, it's like there's almost always logic, and then there's no logic behind what you find.
That's a good way of putting it.
All I'm doing is I'm just gaining more experience from the things that I find in the ground, but most of the sites that I've been detecting, I've been hiking them many years before I was digging them. So actually, but it does help me when I go to new areas, yeah. It's just experience, just like anybody else knows. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
Right. So in a sense, you already had, say, a general idea of where you thought the hot spots, so to speak, would be on these areas.
Oh yeah, like I said last week, I got that bounty hunter metal detector, woke up the next morning and beelined it for a cellar hole down the street. You know, I had 3 to go to that day, but only made it to 1 because I almost couldn't carry all the nails and shotgun shells out of there. I was just absolutely blown away at how much stuff was under the ground that I had never seen before.
Right, it's like, wow, this is kind of phenomenal. I didn't realize there was this much.
Insane.
Which does bring to light another good point. Hunting around these cellar holes like that, these old abandoned properties, I'm sure that iron is an issue. You know, you probably, did you find yourself struggling with that a little bit in the beginning? Or, because some people, they don't like hunting in iron. It's too noisy.
I almost need it. I went out with Mr. Keebler to, we've been doing this horse farm, and it's been, because it's so dead quiet and I'm not getting the iron chatter, I'm almost like, it's almost painful. It's hard to explain. It's like ass backwards, but...
And you probably find yourself wondering if your detector's working.
Well, yeah, I hear the sound of a coin, and my heart jumps out of my body because I'm so used to being in the woods that when I hear a coin, you know it's more than likely going to be old. But, like what you just asked me about in the beginning, the bounty hunter found everything, metal-wise.
Right.
You know, I was detecting metal, all right. Then... that's why I went out and got the ACE 350. I said, okay, I need some discrimination. That machine is just, it's not made for cellar holes. If you're out in a park, a beach, whatnot, I'm sure it's a great machine, but it would hang up on everything. As soon as I got an AT Pro, it was like somebody flipped on the light switch with that Pro audio. It was like all of a sudden I could hear all the different shapes in the ground, you know, nails and chunks of other stuff. So the first couple of weeks were just bewildering,
So where you may have found yourself kind of struggling a little bit in the beginning, you kind of hit your comfort zone in a sense with the AT Pro.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the fact that several of us run that machine, it actually helps a group hunt together because, if George goes over to a signal and he's like, what do you make of that? I'm listening to it. His machine is the same as mine, and so I understand what his machine is saying. I may say pass it up or you got to get it, but if I listen to Keebler's Deus or Jay's Gold Bug or whatnot, I have no idea what their machines are saying.
Right, yeah, I know how that can go. Let's see, we've got another caller. Go ahead, caller. You're on with myself and Digger Charlie, Beyond Sight and Sound.
Hey, Josh and Charlie. It's Derek Asklar down here in Florida. How you doing?
How's it going, Derek?
Oh, pretty good. I just heard him comment a few minutes ago on how he likes the iron, and he feels more comfortable there, and I have to agree with him on that. I get into a trashy area, and it's a lot different than hunting just a plain field where you're not getting all those hits everywhere. Getting in between the iron and getting the good stuff out of there. And I guess it's when I get into a trashy area like that, I just know I'm going to find something in that iron and nails and stuff that's going to be worthwhile doing.
Oh yeah, it's some people. Well, I guess the best way to explain it probably is it takes a particular sort of person to be able to have the diligence and determination to hunt in the iron, because for a lot of people at first it is overwhelming. It's just too much chatter for them. Right.
It does depend on the machine, because every machine will find you something, but you get some of those machines that can discriminate it out real good, and the iron's there, but you also can hear those peaks and stuff in there, like you was talking about the AT Pro and stuff. Also wanted to say that the donating the stuff to the local historical society is something I've been doing also over the past about 6 years or so, and it's a really good idea. You get a lot of leads that way, and people get to know you, and they know that you're not out there to kind of like just go out there and dig a bunch of holes and leave them open and everything. You're going to go out there and find stuff. You find something nice that you think they'll like, you're going to donate it most of the time anyways, and that's what me and Pauline both do. Right. We're not out there looting and pillaging. We're not carrying backhoes in our pocket. Oh, exactly. And you hear a lot of thought. I had an incident when I went to a town outside of mine with a friend of mine, and it was city property, and it was where the old Orange Belt Railway ran, and we were digging up railway seals and stuff, which is, buttons and stuff like that, just trinkets, and found a few coins there, and we actually had the sheriff from the town roll up and really put me under the microscope, real quick, and it's public property and stuff, and we just felt, we pay taxes and everything, and it's okay, we're not leaving any holes, and we're being discreet, and it wasn't like a real fancy area or anything where it was manicured lawn. But he said, well, I don't know, we'll have to talk to the mayor of the town and this and that. So long story short, we went in there and to the city hall meeting and actually brought some of our displays of what we, dig up at certain sites and stuff, photos of what we had found at other spots and donated to the Historical Society. And believe it or not, every one of the people up there on the board, were really kind of intrigued with it all, and we ended up getting permission to hunt anywhere in the town that we wanted to, as long as it was city property, which was really awesome. But the main problem
that makes it nice.
Yeah, the main problem we had, though, the reason why that sheriff had given us so much problem is because they had somebody break an ankle in a hole at the park, and they assumed it was a metal detecting guy that left a hole open. And the city had I don't know if they got sued or what, it was a big hoopla about it, and we didn't realize that. But by the end of it, they gave us permission as long as we took care of the property. So, it runs you into a lot of leads that way, too. People see you out there, because I'm more like Charles, right, Charlie?
Charlie, fine, Charlie.
Yeah, more like you. I'd prefer to be out in the woods like you. You kind of list people to talk to, and you kind of do your own thing, and nobody really bothers you.
Right, and until you have that interaction or conversation with somebody.
Have you had anybody? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying nobody knows the better. When you get in, you get out, and it's the end of the story.
Right, and you donate a lot of the stuff, and with people around where I live at, it's old. A lot of these properties have been owned by the same family for just a long, long time, and once they trust you, I guess, then it's really no problem. You know, you get invited by the other families, so to speak, and come out there as long as you don't leave open holes and all that stuff. But it really, it spreads out. You find a lot of leads. I find a lot of leads just by calling for sale by owner signs on properties, like open properties, and just talking to the person, and they, ask them if I can go out there. I won't hurt anything, and they don't mind as long as you don't tear up anything.
I got cut off in the beginning. I don't even know who called in.
Derek
Aslar.
Oh, okay, excellent. Well,
yeah.
Another point that I have made with locals, and you can hear all the goody two-shoes you want from metal detectors. Get permission, get written permission, do this, do that. But there is a huge majority of people, and big-name people, that basically go around all the New England states hitting cellar holes. They don't have permission. They don't know who owns it. They don't know who the history or what the history is behind the property. And it happens. It happens all the time. So a point that I make to a lot of my locals is that if I don't get in there and get the stuff, anybody else can come along at any time, dig it up, take it out of the town, and all historical context is lost. I'm sorry, it's like they say they're saving history, but it's like all you're doing is saving a flat button. If you don't know where that came from, and you can't put a name to that particular item, it's just another button.
Oh, exactly. I have actually, my church that I belong to, they actually rebuilt it across the street, and the original was built in 1854, and I talked to the pastor, it's still dirt to this day, and they use it as a parking lot. And I went in there, and I probably could still go there tomorrow and find more stuff. I mean, it's this incredible amount of stuff over 100 and some odd years.
Right.
And I go through it, and I donate all that, because he's part of the Historical Society. That's how I got involved with him to begin with. And he's tickled pink because they have stuff for their displays, even if they only leave them out part of the year. But just the history from that particular piece of property, it's amazing what records have been lost over the years, especially prior to 1900, because they had a courthouse catch on fire. So a lot of the property ownerships and stuff like that got burned up back then. So anything you can dig up, you find license plates, you find the old licenses, the round ones that went on the Model Ts and stuff like that. Just all kinds of, doodads or trinkets. And you find some coins and stuff too. And it's like I told him, if I already have one of those coins of that year, I don't mind donating it or whatever. He usually just tells me to keep the coinage, but he wants all the relics.
Right.
Which is,
that's fantastic.
And I just ask him, let me get a photo of them or put them on video so I have them, for myself. So, I say I found it.
Right.
And you can do whatever you want with it. And it's great, and everybody gets to see it and gives us kind of a better name, I feel like, anyway.
And, another thing I want to say, because I go to other towns too, and I dig on other pieces of property. I will take the time to find homestead maps, find a name for the property that I'm digging on, and I still log everything that's not from my town, which at some point in time I would like it to end up in that town. Now, the other interesting part of that approach is some historical societies do not want anything that you have dug out of the ground. Like, they completely shun people going and digging things out of the ground. Even if it's, a cellar hole, private property, it's kind of bizarre that you just want it to rot to dust, to nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense.
At some point in time, I'll leave it on their doorstep, like a baby in a breadbasket. I'll just put it, a name on the map, where it came from, and they can do what they want with it. Because I don't know, stuff that ain't mine.
Yeah, I find more people not, say, well, I really don't want anything, or if they see something they like that they might want to keep at the house, they'll, take. I've had some guys take everything, and that's okay. I had fun finding it. That's what it's all about, is finding stuff. I mean, obviously, if it was a gold coin, I might get a little, might want a little finder's fee, but, I've not found one yet, so I don't have to worry about that part of it. But
I figure I'll cross that bridge when I get to it too.
Yeah, exactly. But it's amazing. People just love to see what comes off their property. Even our property here in Bushnell, I'm finding stuff here from Stagecoach Line. It's old rain guides and stuff like that.
Nice.
I found that through survey maps from way back then. I don't even have plot maps or anything in this area that they, because the courthouse burned down and stuff. But, I find some weird stuff on my property, but it's a real junky property. And I might find something from 1980 or, a V-nickel from, 1900. I never know. It makes it interesting trying to find it anyway.
Yeah, don't you feel like we're defragmenting the planet slowly?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm like you. I hate to see something rot in the ground and be lost for all time. I mean, really, if you didn't dig it up, who would? I mean, nobody would ever be over that spot.
Right.
But, hey,
right.
Josh, I heard a little bit at the beginning, but I'll see you at Detector Palooza.
Yes,
looking
Derek
forward
is
to it.
another one that will be attending Detective Palooza.
Yeah, you guys get on up there. It looks like we're going to have a pretty good group of guys up there this time around. So.
Yeah, I hope so. The last I checked, there were right about 30 of us that have already confirmed that we will be there.
Yeah, Craig Talley wanted to go, but he has other stuff to take care of that weekend. But I'm gonna definitely make it. I'm looking forward to it. I've been stoked. Pauling's wanting me to get out of here because I've been talking about it so much. But
yeah, I've been kind of looking forward to it myself. My wife's excited about it because she wants to see the sights and stuff like that. And Ryan Hollabew, he's looking forward to it. He's bringing a friend of his, Reese, and
Chuck Smiley's going to be there.
Yeah, Chuck Smiley will be there.
We got a good group of guys.
It should be a good time. There'll be a good group of people there.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun. Everybody has, whether you have a year or 10, 20 years, doesn't matter. Everybody's going to learn something and have some fun, and yeah, that's what it's all about. It's exciting for me. But I'll let you guys go. I'm sorry for taking up so much time.
All right. You have a good night, Derek. Thanks for listening in. Thanks for the call.
No problem, guys. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay. Well, we're starting to get to the end of our rope there, Charlie, but one thing I would like to cover real quick is we had mentioned, before we went on air, you had made an interesting analogy to hunting in the iron. Maybe for some of the listeners out there who are into, say, sideband and ham radio, maybe you'd like to explain that to them. Maybe when it's put in that perspective, they may look at it a little differently, and it may help them be able to handle the iron a little better.
Right. Well, I had brought up the point with Josh that I am a radio hobbyist. I'm a ham radio operator, and actually several of us in Stealth Diggers are. And I've always loved radio, whether it's AM broadcast, shortwave, CB, ham, doesn't matter. And if you've listened to AM radio while driving down the road, you know that there's weak signals, there's strong signals, there's waving signals, and you basically have a noise floor. It's the same thing with digging in iron. You're scanning back and forth, and you're just hearing this constant noise floor, and you're looking for that spike or that signal. That's what we always call it, got a signal. I had to learn Morse code by listening to guys send Morse code. And the way radio works is the signal can be there and then it's gone. And you just have to learn how to zero in on it and copy it. So it gave me a bit of an advantage, or my ears had already been trained to search and listen for weak signals. But that's what we basically call it. I go out in the woods and it's a noise floor. It's the iron instead of static and...
Yeah, instead of like static and other white noise, you're hearing the clicks and chatters of small bits of iron and stuff like that.
Right, and you being a radio guy, you got exactly what I was saying.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I think that is a good way to put it too, because I've had a number of people tell me, it's like, how can you stand to listen to this? It's too much racket in my ears. But once you get used to that, much like you said, when you were on that field, you started to find that you missed it, actually.
Yeah, things just didn't sound right. Or I ended up digging, literally, I know you should dig everything anyways, but it doesn't work that way in a cellar hole, because you might as well just take your machine and put it back in your truck and just dig holes.
Right.
Because you're just sitting on basically a bed of crap. So when I'm out in a person's yard, everything I hear sounds great, but I'm digging plumbing fixtures. I would rather dig flat nails than clad coins. I cannot stand digging Lincoln pennies. I mean, it's just not my cup of tea. And it's
right.
You know what it is? It's the keys. You hear this signal, and it's like, ping! And You think you...
Exactly. That is a good point of the way to put that out there like that. Uh-oh. I think I recognize this number here. We've got a caller. You're on with myself and Digger Charlie.
Thanks. This is Kenny Moore.
That's what I thought. Dirt Bandit 33.
That's right. How you doing, Charlie?
Oh, let's see here. Looks like we may have temporarily lost... Well, hold on a minute.
I know how it is.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes, we do have Digger Charlie. Charlie, you're on with Kenny Moore, Mr. Dirt Bandit 33, previous guest from a few weeks back.
Cool, you said Kenny, right?
Yes.
Oh. Good evening, Kenny.
Yeah, how you doing, man? Just a touch on that iron. To me, especially those that may not want to hunt it, and this may sound funny, but iron can be gold. And
yeah.
I have cannonballs, bayonet, I have Confederate sword hooks, even knapsack hooks that the Confederates made of iron because they couldn't get the brass. And another little thing is I've actually had bullets come up with the iron signal, and the reason for that is because they use the mold, which is iron, but in their out and about, and they didn't have the oil or whatever, those would rust. And a lot of times when they poured that lead, some of that rust and iron would mix in with that lead.
Yeah, it would become impregnated in with the bullet.
Absolutely.
It does.
Right,
That's a good point.
That's where it comes down to your signal being, pure and, getting a good reading of the footprint of the item. No, I agree. I don't know if you had seen, I had found a George Washington cufflink last month.
Right.
And they're not brass. They're some type of iron. It was coming up like a 42 to 44 on the AT Pro, which, I mean, that is literally not much better than a good square nail, but the signal was pure. And thank God I dug the thing. And when I realized what I had, I went back and tore the another one.
And Kenny should be able to relate quite well with that because he's another woods hunter that he uses an AT Pro as well.
Right. I dug a 12-pound cannonball, and it had a 41. So, I mean...
It sounded good, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was nice and loud. But, I mean, there again, though, you never know. You never know where it's a bayonet, a cannonball, or a tent stake or a railroad spike. Because if you find a railroad spike, 20 miles from a railroad track, guess what? That was a tent stake. Yeah, you never know with the iron. Dig it.
That's right.
But all right, this is a good show. It's a great show. It's nice hearing you guys. I just wanted to call in and check in, so I'll listen the rest of the way off the air.
Well, thank you. And thanks for listening, Kenny.
I agree with him on the iron because that's that whole signature and purity of the signal as to guessing what it is.
Right. And much like with the show, sometimes you just never know. You've got to, you get them signals. And for me, a lot of the times, if it's kind of an iffy signal where it's not just flat out slapping me across the face that it's a trash target, I just have this problem of I'm not really able to freely let myself walk away from it because then I'm always going, well, what if?
Oh, yeah, you'll be thinking about it all night long.
Yeah. I'd rather just dig it and know for sure, and, if it was a piece of junk, well, fine, it's out of the ground. I'm not going to find it the next time.
Or what's worse is if I hear a signal and I start to walk away, many times George will walk up behind me. He'll be like, you going to pass that up? And now I'm sweating thinking, oh,
yeah,
man,
going, ooh, did I do the right thing?
Right, so he's always pushing my buttons. His new thing is he throws quarters out in areas where I just detected. He's like, didn't you just walk through here? And the thing's going, bing, bing, bing. Chops.
Yeah, I noticed in your last video you even had another fellow hunter there with you, J Mo.
Yeah, Jay's a great guy. We had a blast.
Yeah, I get a kick out of watching his videos. I used to watch quite a few of his videos on YouTube. Good guy.
Yeah, there's a bunch of us getting together again this weekend. so far. It's myself, Mr. Keebler, Just Bob, and J-Mo. I don't know who else is showing up, but it should make for a really great day and some good filming. I really look forward to that.
Well, when you get together with him, you'll have to tell him I said hi. He may remember me from my YouTube channel, Ohio Metal Detecting.
Yeah, he's got a good recollection of everybody that he interacts with on YouTube, which is
right.
awesome.
It used to be String Frenzy, but I got caught in that whole Google Plus merger too, and now the channel's known as Ohio Metal Detecting. Matter of fact, I believe J-Mo got caught in that too.
Yeah, because he was J-Mo, and now he's New Hampshire Treasure Hunter.
Right. So that's a good point there too. Well, I would say we're pretty much at the end of our rope, but before you go, I would like to say that I definitely appreciate you sitting down and taking the time to speak with us tonight. And for the listeners, we certainly appreciate everybody tuning in. If you've enjoyed the show, remember, click the pink hands, like the show, rate the channel, yada yada. Check out Metal Detecting Beyond Sight and Sound on Facebook. And while you're at it, Charlie, would you like to tell the listeners where they can find you, your Facebook group, your YouTube channel?
Yeah, first off, let me just say thank you for having me on and everyone that called in. And you did a great interview there, Josh. I enjoyed the chat.
Well, thank you.
Real simple. Stealth Diggers on Facebook. StealthDiggers@gmail.com if you want to email me. Stealth Diggers on YouTube. The channel has really taken off, and I just absolutely appreciate everyone who has subscribed, comments, and the more response that we get, the more we'll put out. I'm trying to put out a video every 3 or 4 days, and I'm trying to make them as good as possible and catch the silliness of the characters. But
and you do a very good job with it.
Thank you.
I enjoyed watching them, and really I need to put a little more time into editing mine, but I've got so many pokers in the fire right now, it's not even funny. But you're doing well. I believe, almost 500 subscribers now?
Well, we're at almost 530, but the thing was, I really didn't start pushing this until April of this year, so it's taken off pretty good. I didn't expect it, but yeah, I'm
right.
I
know I took a break from my videos there for quite a while. I hadn't uploaded one on my channel since March, so I figured it was high time to do one, and uploaded that one this morning. Definitely an absolute pleasure to speak with you. We're glad you took the time to sit down and talk with us and let the listeners hear some of your experiences. We appreciate all the people who tuned in and listened, the callers, all of that. I'm sure there were a number of comments in chat, and the comments are always more than welcome. Check out Charlie's YouTube channel, Stealth Diggers. Subscribe, comment, rate the videos. While you're at it, if you've never checked it out, check out Ohio Metal Detecting on YouTube. Check out the Facebook groups. Good people, good information, good content. You just never know what's going to be going on. But we appreciate everyone for tuning in. This was Beyond Sight and Sound for tonight. Tune in next week and see what happens, and we'll keep doing it. We're always looking for good guests, good content. If you think you're that person or know someone, drop me a line. People know how to find me. This was Beyond Sight and Sound. I am your host, Josh Kimmel, a.k.a. Treasure Seeker on Facebook. It's been great, folks. Click the pink hands, rate the channel if you enjoyed the show. We gotta run.